Okay. Kind of had this one on the back burner of mine for a while. I'm not sure why I've not gotten to it, but nonetheless, here I am. And there were a couple angles I was thinking I could play up here with it. I really think the best angle that I'd like to play up, though, is giving this to Muslims to think about. Although I know there are a lot of XWs who are skeptics, agnostics, atheists, and many of them, who watch my videos, and I consider many of them friends. And guys, chew this over as well. Like I said, since I consider you guys friends, I'd hardly want to put a blade at your throat and say, believe this or you're a fool. Just do it out. Do whatever you want to do with it, huh? But for the Muslims, decided to play it up with the Muslims because I don't know how well you know Muslims. Muslims, they either hate the Apostle Paul or at the very least, they look crooked at him. They look at him like he's the guy who runs the Ferris wheel at the carnival. I mean, they do not like him a whole heck of a lot. And the reason being is if Paul is preaching a correct message about Jesus Christ and what we must believe about Jesus Christ, say bye-bye to the Quran. Let me just show you some Muslim goofball, and he spammed. Apparently, I blocked him recently. He I guess loves to spam Christians with like anti-Israeli, anti-Christian, anti-U.S. propaganda. It's insane. Winner take all. Winner take all one. You encounter this guy, don't engage him. Anyway, he's ranting and raving. Let's do a reality check. Islam stresses the importance of chastity. Do Christians stress great importance on morals, including chastity? Their silence means Christians agree that virginity is no longer a virtue in Christianity. Same like finding a needle in a haystack. Why? Because Christians follow Satan Paul's gospel, which cancel Mosaic law on morality. Now, putting aside that this is just an insipid accusation, that is not, it's not even worth engaging it. Satan Paul, sir. So that's just an example of Muslim feeling towards the Apostle Paul. So, Muslims, if you're watching this, I want you to consider this about the Apostle Paul. I know many of you, regard him as a fraud. Well, let me take a look. Let's go into 2 Corinthians 10. Now, I don't think there's any dispute among conservatives, moderate, liberal scholars that the Apostle Paul wrote 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Some of the stuff I'm about to bring up and show you is a pretty good reason why it's very doubtful that somebody wrote it instead of Paul, because this doesn't exactly make Paul look good. Some false apostles that Paul has named super apostles have kind of come in and have seduced many of the Corinthians with their false teachings. Paul begins to say, he's like, by the humility and gentleness of Christ I appeal to you. I, Paul, who am timid when face to face with you, but bold when away. So there's some Corinthian chatter about Paul. Oh yeah, he's a tough guy in his letters. He's reaming us out. He comes to us face to face. He's not quite so confident. He's a bit of a wuss. So there's a little more Corinthian chatter as well. Some say his letters are weighty and forceful, but in person he's unimpressive. His speaking amounts to nothing. Goes on. Let's go on to 2 Corinthians 11. There's more Corinthian chatter. Paul feels like he needs to build up his credibility. With these guys. It's like, guys, come on, I'm looking out for you. I'm looking out for you. These super apostles are frauds. They're trying in and they're bringing in false teaching. So Paul starts to go on about what frankly makes him special, why he truly is one of Christ's apostles. And he starts boasting about what he does. So he goes on, I'm speaking as a fool. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. Goes on and on about all of his credentials. I have labored and toiled and have gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have gone without food. I've been cold and naked. So, interesting Muslims. I want to point out, not too much frauds will do that, but just something to think about. That's not the crux of the issue. He was under arrest by King Aretas in Damascus. He slipped through the window. And then it goes on, and here's kind of where I'm angling at. Then he boasts about the vision of the thorn in the flesh. And here it is. I have made a fool of myself, but you drove me to it. I ought to have been commended by you, for I am not in the least inferior to the super apostles, even though I am nothing. I persevered in demonstrating among the marks of a true apostle, including signs, wonders, and miracles. Other translations render it mighty works. Persevered in demonstrating among you the marks of a true apostle, including signs, wonders, and miracles. Now, this is interesting. What we have here is Paul reminding the Corinthians, hey, remember the miracles I worked when I was in your presence? Now, a lot of the miracle stories in the Bible, I guess a skeptic would say, how do I know it really happened? Yeah, good question. Do you just kind of have to take the word of the person writing the story that the miracle happened? Well, we can get into that a bit, but putting that aside, that's really something for another one. If you're trying to build credibility with people, would it be wise to remind them of something spectacular that you did if you didn't really do it? So, can we say safely that Paul did indeed work miracles when he was in Corinth? I really gotta say, based on this, my inner skeptic always argues with me, and there's not a whole lot that can be said against this. Again, it's one thing if Paul tells people, hey, I can work miracles. It's another thing if he reminds them of the miracles he worked when he was among them, when he's trying to build credibility with people. And apparently, were these, card tricks? Were they just, separating the linked rings or some simple magic trick? Doesn't sound like it, because the Corinthians ragged on him about a lot of other stuff. He can't talk well. He's Mr. Tough Guy in his letters, but he's not really that brave up front. They didn't rag on his miracles. They didn't say, those are simple parlor tricks. So Muslims, I want you to hear this, think this over. The guy you rag on as a fraud, as a Satan, as a a person who perverted the message of Jesus Christ, looks like he worked some legit miracles in his time. Just think that all over, and let me know what you think.